2023年6月3日星期六上午，由亚裔选举联盟主办、休斯顿各社团协办的美国选举制度宣讲会在中国城举行。本次会议的主题是 SB 147法案的产生及流产过程。会议特别邀请了德州众议员金务、休斯顿大学教授白先胜、国际区区长、美南新闻集团董事长李卫华、著名侨领孙铁汉、国会议员代表罗琳及施惠伦教授作为主讲嘉宾，并与奥斯汀、达拉斯侨领进行连线交流。与会嘉宾一致担心 SB 147法案会不会偷梁换柱、卷土重来。德州众议院议员金务细致地回答了嘉宾们的提问，请看报道。
Continue our agenda, and we have Lauren and Helen supposed to speak because those are very, very important movements. Without them to organize that rally on the beginning, nobody knows about 147. But I want to give people a little bit hint. Actually, the end of November, 147 already come up. And early of December, I believe it's December 4th, Angie actually came in here. We already laid out what's a 1075. So 1075 is already pushed out on December. January 15th, I believe the governor put on the Twitter, right? It's January 15th or sometime early January. January sometime. He's just smart, okay? He tried to run for president, my personal opinion. And he knew on January until about 3 weeks later, there's nobody, state rep or senator is going to against or openly criticize the governor, whatever he said. The reason is every senator or state rep, if they want to go to a certain committee or want to be a committee chair, they will not openly against what the governor said. And he will earn that 3 weeks, I say the media time. So everybody will only can hear what the governor wants. And he said, if you pass the 147, I will sign it. And so every other state hear that. And Florida, every state, they start doing a similar law. And on the end, Texas is the first one mentioned about this kind here. But Texas, we kill that. And that's everybody ever here. Okay, let me tell you, 我们请那个李卫华说好不好
147, we as a media person, we really follow up all the way. But let me say two things. That's my observation. Last 6 months, we've been working with the Bishop Dixon and Congressman Elwin in my office about 6 months. We have more than 20 meetings. So finally, we have 2 conclusions. Of course, Harry, we've been talking. Number one, we're going to have this coalition as a permanent. You know, we're thinking about 501c3 or 501c4, number one. Second thing is financial, we're going to raise $100,000 per budget per year. That's my responsibility to move on, Harry, okay, all of us. I think unless you have a financial support, a lot of things cannot become true. I mean, I tell you the truth, I've been in this community more than 40 years. We saw a lot of organizations, but we need the financial support, Harry. I mean, we have a lot of very successful businessmen in our community. I bet our goal is very simple. We go against everything unfair, you know, in our community, right? I think we have a power to do that. So when we reach this goal, number one, we raise the money, we get a permanent person to take care of our organization, we can move on a lot of things. So ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say, this is a movement, it's the first one, we really wake up in our community, never before, never before. I've been in business for many, many years. I remember in my room, in the small room, wow, since 1985, Harry, you remember, we have a small gathering, Chinese Chamber of Commerce, we went to Singapore, we do a lot of things. But end of the day, we're not united. You know, a lot of things happen. We just, oh, the question, it's not right. So my goal is that our goal as a Chamber of Commerce or business people, we need to raise $100,000 a year for sure. Second thing is that we will make this coalition as a permanent organization. So we have a black, we have a Latino, all of them going to support us. We have 2 events, very successful. Maybe we don't have that many people. But my thinking is that very important, all the meeting, we need to have a more organization to support our movement. But end of the day, we have a power to mobilize the people to come to join. Otherwise, it's empty. After we have all these things, the things then will happen. All these politicians are not going to listen to us. You know, that's the name, I think, that's the main thing I want to emphasize today. So, as my position or Chamber of Commerce, we're going to work together. Let's see what we can do next. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I'm representing the Chinese, Houston Chinese Chamber of Commerce. And we have quite a few meetings with Wei Li, with our correlation, and has been formed just like say we're going to file, file 1C or file 1 C board. It's just for text purpose, and the financial is very important, for our movement. No matter what we're going to do, we need the money. We need these business people to support us, behind us. And just with us, there's no money, coming, and it's not going to work. Okay, and this movement, I'm glad, see the room is full here. Everybody putting your effort. Really, this is really show us we care. There are a lot of people out there that didn't know what's going on, and they didn't care because they didn't know what's going on. This is all this movement we're doing. It's not just going to affect us. It's going to affect. It's not just going to affect us, this generation. 150 years ago, our Chinese railroad worker already faced the same problem, the discrimination problem. And this is a discrimination, and which we face in. We don't want to get it carried on through our children, our grandchildren is going to face it. So if we got to stop, we've got to stop this from now, because all this like HB 147 and whatever this. There's many more, to come, and we need to stop the sentimental, the conscious, how they come up with this ideal, how they come up with this TI, This is ridiculous. This is really, how they come up with this in your mind. We should stop that, But this is going to take a little while, and it's going to take us to unite, just like Chairman Lee said, we need to unite. We can't just, one organization here, one organization there. Let's get all together. Work all together. That's powerful. Okay, and thank you. Yeah.
感谢在座的各位，感谢我们的亚裔选举联盟杨会长费心费力组织这一场的SB 147的一个总结和报告会吧。我要想，大家刚刚已经讲过了我们的马教授他不是打杂的，他是我们的精神导师，也是我们的这个非常重要的参谋长总参谋长、总策划师，他在后面做了很多的工作。这次这个 SB 147这个运动，这个前世今生大家都基本上讲了很多。我这里呢稍微的捋一些这个一个时间点，就是我其他组织做的很多工作呢，我呢在这里呢也稍微的就是提示一下。我主要讲我自己作为 ALC 的这个负责人，我们做了哪些事情，给大家汇报一下。我们最重要的事情做的就是2月211的那个大游行我们跟40多个社团共同组织，包括我们组委会的也是总指挥之一，我们那个杨会长，他是做了很多的幕后的工作，做得非常辛苦。临时到最后，我们场地的安排都是他去谈下来的，换了好几次，这个是非常令人感动的一个机会，这个事件。那么 这个是2月11号这个运动是我们休斯顿华人社区可以说是划时代的一个活动。我们从来没有这么多的华人，可以说上千号人走上街头，为了我们自己的权益去发声，去这个抗议，并且呢，我们还有3个国会议员跟我们一起走上街头，包括我们的休斯顿的市长，这也是划时代从来没有见到的，这么重视我们市长亲自走在第一排。大家知道3个国会议员1个市长走在第一排具有什么样的意义吗？他在为我们挡子弹。你们要知道那一天的风险是非常大的，我们身后有好几个的安保，就在保护我们这些国会议员和这个市长。为什么？因为我们德州是什么地方啊？是人人可以拥枪的，公开可以持枪的。我们这个反 SB 运动，你说都是支持的吗？都是反对这个法案的吗？还有一部分人是支持法案的。因此呢，在这种状况下，我们能请到这么重要的官员，冒着这么大的危险，来和我们华人走在一起，领先排，走在第一排，为我们去发声，为我们去抗议，这个意义非同小可。我希望我们大家一定要铭记这次运动中的这些为我们发声的这些民选官员为我们做出的特殊的贡献，我们要向他们致敬。包括国会议员希拉·贾克森利、国会议员 Al Green、市长 Turner， 还有我们的金屋，我们的众议员。金屋是我们的精神领袖，没有他就没有这场运动，大家也要记住他。还有我们的市议员谭秋瑾，我们还有在座的这个我们的李总，在座很多参加了我们这个游行活动的。我在这里呢，要代表我们所有的组织者，向在座的各位表示最崇高的敬意。我用军人的礼哈，因为我是军人的后代。谢谢这个我们是战友。我喜欢用军人术语，我说叫我们是所有的参与这些运动的同事这个朋友，我都叫做我们的战友。战友情是永远的，因为我们一起经历过这么多的事情。那么这是2月11号。那么之前的这个运动的话呢，我们的白教授已经给我们做了介绍，我就讲讲我们3月2号，我们还以这个 ATJ 就是德州Asian Texas Justice 这么一个组织 ，ATJ 是 Alice Lee 组织领导的，为我们做了3场的这个听证会的培训。那么后来呢，我们又在与这个达拉斯的DWFAC 和我们的ACON LLC 还有我们的 UCA 的2位代表会论跟这个白教授是 Founding Chair， UCA 的 Founding Chair。我们这些组织和叫 activist 吧，我们叫大家叫我们叫社会活动家也好，叫我们叫这个义工，我为社会义工做了20年，很多在座的各位都是做了多年的义工的。因此的话呢，我们组织的这个听证会，128个是反对这个 bill 的，还有那么几个人是支持 bill 的。然后呢，我们就被冠上了各种各样的色彩和帽子。我希望大家呢，我也不要去重复，因为重复的本身就是在帮助别人宣传这个谣言，所以我不重复他们的谣言是什么。但是我希望大家知道，我们头上戴了非常重的帽子和压力。因此的话呢，这场运动不只是我们的议员的民选官员在前面冲锋陷阵，还有我们在座的各位都是在前面冲锋陷阵的，包括我们的这个施大哥，他在这个参加那个town hall meeting 的时候，他甚至站起来，作为我们共和党的朋友，作为我们华人是有2个党派的，我们也是很支持大家在2党都要有我们自己人。我们是什么呢？我们如果在朝中无人的话，你不但是没人听你说话，而且呢，你自己不在那个朝中的话呢，你就没有人看得见。我们是一个 invisible 的，我们这个社区在我们整个政治区这个族谱里面是 invisible。因此呢，我们要怎么样让我们自己 visible 呢？那么现在呢，我们已经做到了第一步，也是我自己人生的第一次在这个议会出席听证会去作证反对这个 bill，128个人。因此在德州议会第一次有120个华人和亚裔出席听证会，这是德州历史上也是从来没有过的事情，也是一个里程碑事件，因此值得我们骄傲。我们华人终于怎么样呢？我们终于 woke up， 然后我们怎么样呢？ We stood up and we spoke up。我们不但是醒来了，站起来，而且发声了。所以呢，这是一件非常值得我们骄傲的事情。因此呢，我要向所有出席过3月2号听证会的所有的参与这个听证会的战士们、朋友们，也要尽一个礼，感谢你们的参与。 这个是给我有很大的鼓舞，也有很大的这个激励。还有3月9号，3月9号呢，我们几个组织呢也带领这个组织了一个小型的一个游说团体，我们参加了亚裔的这个议会日，我们在议会里走访了好多议员，一天之内，我们正好那天有一个日本的 NHK 跟踪我们拍摄，全天陪着我们拍摄了我们那一天的那个游说活动，这也是我们第一次。虽然我们有一些前辈，包括我们的爱丽丝议，他们经常在这个议会，他们住在奥斯汀，经常在议会去参与各种听证，他们非常的熟悉了解这个议会的过程，所以的话呢，他们的带领，我们的参与，大家在一起也做出了一定的努力，我们付出了一定的心血。那一整天到后面我们累的是眼睛都睁不开，因为从早上起来开车从休斯顿到奥斯汀，然后半夜开车从奥斯汀赶回来。所以说路上都是风尘仆仆吧，虽然不是说那个长途，但是经常这么奔波的话呢，也确实是耗力气。因此我们也可以理解，我们的经务议员经常要从这里到奥斯汀过去，而且要是在那边生活一段时间，家庭照顾不到，这些都是这是常事，对于他们来说，这就是一种什么一种奉献。
说的啊，就是我们华裔社区现在实际上是太缺乏这方面的这个组织工作哈，为什么这个组织工作这么困难呢哈？就是呢，另外呢，我很高兴的呢，就是这一次呢，事实上有很多人第一次参加这样的活动 ，first time grassroots 哈，尤其是刚才白教授讲的这个 3J 哈 ，Janet 还有June 在这三个女强人哈站起来，所以他们呢也是罗琳和我们都是 women leader， 就是在这个其中当中呢，grassroots 第一次，很多人第一次参与。然后呢，当然，刚才我们也大家都讲到哈，我们下一步要继续怎么往下走。所以呢，我经常做一个比喻呢，这个好像是在一个沙漠当中要建一个森林一样。那呢，说靠某几个人的 effort 是不可能的，所以这个是 everybody has to be involved, everybody have to contribute something。所以呢，在这个当中呢，很困难的也，刚才大家也提到哈，就说还有人呢还反对这个法案。我们在反对法案，还有人在反对我们哈，还有人去支持法案，甚至呢，我们前面有敌人，我们后面也有敌人在攻击我们。那个 Republican 的共和党在攻击我们，那我们华人内部还要攻击我们，我们还在微信里还要受到国内的监视，所以我们做这个工作确实是非常非常的困难。然后呢，当然我们希望更多的人来支持参与，为什么呢？7个筷子在一起才有力量啊，一个筷子大家都散兵一样是不可能有力量的。所以呢，我也很 appreciate 在当中呢，这个华裔媒体起的重要的这个作用哈。我们今天媒体的同事也在，像李总啊，还有我后面的铁媒啊，各个媒体朋友。当然我们知道，这个王福生呢也去世了哈，因为我们在一起工作奋斗了这么多年来，大家都看到媒体工作重要性，社区就是需要宣传。所以呢 ，I hope everyone really can really help to advocate this. And to tell more friends, and we can work together and bring all of our community together across different states, especially Chinese media. I really appreciate our media effort. 休斯顿今天虽然在线，今天没有来哈，事实上他也做了非常多的努力。所以呢，这个就是众人拾柴火焰高，看我们下一步大家怎么群策群力，共同把这个事情做得更好。OK， 谢谢大家。
大家好，我接着这个 Alan 刚刚提到的，就是这次的德州的这个法案，算是全美国第一个推出这个 Island Law， 就是外国人购买土地的限制法。我自己本人啊，我在休斯顿从1991年就当了一个小的民选的镇长，所以我一直都跟美国的这个政治人物，或是在休斯顿地区的，始终都有很好的接触。然后像白教授我们一起在1999年就成立了一个 Asian American 派，然后当我认识罗琳什么这些都是几十年了，当然我们也相处过很长一段时间。我只是跟大家讲一下，我们后来才发现，就是说德州的法案其实要整个德州人来反抗。所谓整个德州人，就是说我们光 Houston， 我们认识 Houston 地区的这个民意代表，其实也还是不够的。德州整个的华人其实人才济济，包括很多已经参与的，就是说我刚刚讲过，我们蛮早的，我们1991年就开始，罗琳或者是白教授或者 Alan， 我们其实都参与了蛮长时间， 孙典汉当时商业界的这个大力支援，李文华他们这个媒体，只要没有媒体的话，其实我们很多事情是真做不了的。不过整个这个147，因为前面我们这个真的是，假如没有那次2月11号的那个游行的话，其实很多华人都不会注意到这个问题。然后大家在金务的这个再三提醒，你们待会可以问金务，他再三跟大家提，千万不要把它弄成一个政党对决，因为这个147法案，假如是民主党对抗共和党的话，那一定通过，一定输掉。他再三提醒了大家，而且在Dallas地区也有一批，我说的是新血了就是说新来的介入这个政治的议题。待会我们会请一位 Jenna 讲一点点，他只是其中一个代表Dallas我所知道大概有6、7个人非常有效率的组织，他们很快的每一个 senator 都安排3次以上的 Zoom meeting， 这个不容易。第一个，人家要答应接受要有个 meeting； 第二个，我们要问什么？那当然，就像罗琳讲的，我们也有一批人提供了一个这个 talking point， 那个很重要，因为大家都第一次来做这些事情，很多人并不知道该讲什么。我们也很快的这个调整了我们的步伐，就是说我们赶快集中在少数的执政党，对不起，我现在讲就是共和党，因为美国其实是2党的政治。那我相信金务待会来大家都可以问，这次我们能够把147挡下来，绝对是民主党、共和党一起的努力。太过于政党色彩太明显的话，我们不会有今天的这么好的一个结果。那所以我想介绍一下 Jenna Jenna 是坦白讲，这次147以前我根本就不知道这么一个人。Dallas地区有很多人也不是很认识他，可是他非常成功的安排了几乎所有德州 senator 的这个 Zoom meeting。那我也请他，我再强调一下，其实Dallas我知道的就有4、5个新的人，包括以前旧的人我所谓旧的人就是已经参与过政治活动的。那我现在就简单介绍一下 Jenna， 我认识他不深，可是我觉得他做事很有效率。然后我也觉得我们往后的2年还会需要整个德州我支持Dallas Austin。因为这次的真的是大家配合的很好，有罗琳的这种的起头游行，让大家觉醒，然后后面要跟进的是怎么跟这些立法的这个人员，就是 senator 跟 representative 怎么给他压力，要让他认识说这个法案是坏的法案。有很多的这个议员，对不起，他们真正在审法案，他们审太多法案了，2000多个法案。他根本都没有仔细看说哪个法案对哪些人有影响。那我想我就让 Jenna 自己介绍你自己一下，只要我们能够约束在3分钟到5分钟。然后他之后我会请一位易修先生，易修先生是下一个，他的名字在中间，我顺便提一下，待会希望他露个脸。他们是真正人在奥斯汀，每天跑去烦这些，我说烦了就是再三 repeat， 就是他是一个我们的尖兵了就是在前面6、7个人，然后我们在后面大家来support。那我就先请 Jenna 讲几句话好不好？讲讲你的心得，还有万一我们还需要再努力的话，我也希望你讲一下你跟这个现在的 office 联系的这些经验，给大家 share。请 Jenna 讲话。
谢谢 Peter。我是 Jenna 刘，达拉斯，已经是达拉斯来的。我呢确实是第一次参与这样的活动，但是达拉斯好几位，像 Jardine 还有 Henry， 他们在17年、19年就已经很投入这个就是 civic engagement， 所以我们的 Henry 跟Senator Angela Paxton 有很深的联络。我们这次德州。休斯顿江西压起来，特别是希望能把市场的人也加进来。怎么说呢？我这么想，我就觉得，除了那些急救的 Senate 之外，好多需要咱们给他们讲。就是我的意思，就是说是咱们是普通的在美国生活的，需要想追求美国梦的平 不希望那些lawmaker 把咱们给那个 Fox News 妖魔化的中国来对等，所以我就每次打电话都是以，这也是我后来得到好多反馈，包括 Middleton 的 Chief Staff 都这么告诉我，你们一定要讲自己的故事，给这些 lawmaker 讲你们的美国梦，你们在这里，你们想要什么，为什么喜欢在这里，这也就是一直我跟大家分享的。当然，就是 Peter 跟 Dr. Pei 讲的那些 talking point 是我们幕后很多
非常大，这个关系非常大，所以对我们的这个启发就是说，在我们下一段的工作里面，我们需要去争取更多的共和党议员也好，共和党议员也好，民主党议员也好让他们听到我们的声音，听到我们知道我们在参与这些事情，然后把这个事情持续下去然后如果说以后这些 bill 会卷土重来的话，我觉得我们会 better position。这比如说，一是在组织方面，我们已经有了一些基本的组织；二是在这个意识方面这个社区也是参与面也非常大。然后呢，在这个国会那边又建立了一些比较深厚的关系。我觉得这个以后it's good， 就是说我们打了一个很好的基础。我先讲到这里了。
好，谢谢义兄。我想我们不能说是总结了，就是说这次的议事契这个法案，我们深切的了解两党都要有人，我想跟大家提醒的，而且我们的这个尽量扯到这种，我指这个外国人购买土地法案的时候。确实不能，尤其在德州，千万不要把它弄成政党对决的结果。因为很明显的数字，不管是 Senate 或者 House， 只要弄成政党对决之后，唯一被牺牲的就是中国人。OK， 这个是很现实的。那我也呼吁我自己本人，当然，其实我两党的候选人都支持，只要他是华人的话，我几乎都是全力支持。所以在投票的记录里面，我其实两个党派都有。那我们在一开始做第一轮的 Senate 的这个 room meeting， 我们很快就发现，他们觉得你们没有共和党的人来讲话，我不太想听，这是讲实话。所以我们很快就拉1个到2个，至少要表明身份。或者说我本来是投共和党票 ，OK， 然后另外在白教授跟其他前辈的努力，我们很快的就拉到了日本人的代表 ，South Asian 的代表，把他们拉进这个大的圈，叫做 Asian。我们很明白告诉他，就是说对于中国人限制土地法案，其实影响到所有的 Asian。而不是只影响到中国人，也绝对影响到我们根本就是美国公民的中国人，因为人家根本不知道我有没有这个身份这些。
What happens when a governor puts something on the call for a special session is that many different members will file many different bills, unless it's something very specific, unless it's like property taxes, where one member has already been tapped and say, you will carry the bill. And this is the bill you will carry. Everything's already drafted for you, everything's ready, you just go and do it. Usually for big bills like funding education, you're going to spend a lot of money, that's how generally it's done. It's one person, nobody else files the bill. But if the governor says, dealing with national security, then and there's not a set person, that everybody will file whatever they want, right? And it'll be up to the speaker this is on the House side, up to the speaker to decide which bills fit into what the governor called, right? And that's we can't always determine that. So right now the speaker is having a fight with the Senate, with the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor sent over some bills from the Senate. Speaker says, I have already ruled that the bills they sent over do not fit under the governor's call. And that's caused, like, that's launching a tactical nuke over into the Senate, and the Senate is really, really pissed off now because they say, like, absolutely, this is a part of the call, but, you know, in the House, the Speaker decides what the rules are and decides the interpretation of the rules. So that's, outside of this, if the governor puts 147 on, and just very clearly, it will say something like, in relation to land ownership or national security. Something with those similar words. We hope at least it just says, in relation to property ownership, because if it just says national security, then people are going to file like social media bills, people will file, the Tenderholt will file his no Chinese people can attend school bills, and many other things. I promise you, if we do that, we'll start seeing things like Chinese people cannot own businesses, Chinese people cannot participate in public contracting. We've already seen small pieces of that. Those ideas are already there. And if the governor puts a very open call on, then people will file more of that stuff. But if he says the call is very narrow, then it limits what can go on, right? And then we have better ways of challenging it in the House and stopping the other nonsense.
Okay. I think we all kind of concerned.
You have to come over here because nobody on the Zoom can hear you.
No, I'm okay. I don't need to be okay. If you can hear the question. Because the senator looks like Dan Patrick is kind of like losing about the property tax on losing side. For him, would that be a little bit possible because he's upset, so he said, I want the 147 come back.
Yeah.
And he's putting that pressure to the government, saying, I want continue fight for 147 this way. Would that be possible happen during the special session or not? That's what we
Yes, it's possible for a few reasons. One is Course is a top lieutenant for Patrick. She is, you know, probably one of the most important people in the Senate, and definitely one of Dan Patrick's one of the people who carries out his wishes. So he's going to be looking to protect her. The second thing is, while I won't say most, but while a lot of the Republicans ended up getting sort of maybe a slight bloody nose in dealing with this because of the reaction from the Asian community, not everyone cares, right? And so for the far right, for like the Tenderholts, for the crazies, this is still a very important bashing, going after China, finding new enemies. These are the same people who are pushing hard on the anti-trans stuff. I mean, I ask you, like, how does trans children affect your life at all? Everyone in here said no. Most of you don't know anyone who's trans, and you know, a trans person never like took away your job, never took away your home, never did anything. But yet, we had anti-trans bill after anti-trans bill, right? So there is a group of people looking for scapegoats, right? They are looking for monsters in the darkness, right? And they say, oh, you're a monster, and you're a monster, and so everybody go after the monsters, right? And China and the Chinese community is an easy target. And the way we make ourselves not an easy target is by fighting back, right? Because, you know, like I said, if you're a bully and you want to pick on somebody, do you want to pick on somebody that can fight back, or do you pick on somebody who cannot fight back? Right? You pick on somebody who cannot fight back.
Sure, we know this time we are very lucky. No matter which party you vote for, we all working together and we stop the 147 this time. But since it's still possible they come back either on the special session or 2 years later,
Yes.
should we talk about some way maybe, for instance, like the 1075 or modified 1075,
Yes.
compromise just a little bit, and then hopefully we can take easy for 10 years or 15 years.
So that's a good question. The question is, should we, even if we can stop it from being a part of the special session right now, so we stopped it on the regular session, even if we can stop it for the special session for in September. If we can stop it in September, then we can probably hold it off until the next session. The ideal reason why we want to hold it off the next session is because we have an election between them. Between September and the next session, there's going to have a whole election cycle. Presidential election, there's a good possibility a lot of Republicans may be in danger, right? And if the Republicans take a big hit, and then also at the same time the Chinese community comes out and votes in high numbers, right? And the Asian community as a whole comes out in high numbers, that sends a very strong message. Be careful what you do. Your position is already in danger. If you want to make us mad and bring us out to vote against you, we will be happy to come punish you, right?
Okay, so...
So the second part of your question is, should we... There is a strategic question. One, should we let them pass something? And this is the question that we tried to answer during the session. Should we let them pass something simple, something small, and just let it get it done and say, hey, it's done, you don't need to do it again, don't ever come and find us and try this again. Pass something small, if they can claim victory, we can claim victory, everyone goes home, right? Or should the strategy be, no, let's just keep fighting this 100%. We try to kill it as long as possible, and then when there's absolutely no room left to maneuver, when we have no other choice, then we say, okay, pass something more reasonable.
Sure, compare with either 147 or 2788, they all using the word, say, prohibit, or they even put a fine to penalize someone they know and they try to sell the property to whatever they target the group. And 1075, as I know, is first they don't kind of restrict or they don't use the word prohibit or ban the purchase. In the other words, it's government job to prove that funding is from the foreign government. And foreign government is a very broad area.
Yes.
So we strategies to say if they are federal, we call the enemy country, on the federal list, and then you can limit those governments to purchase the land. Is that something our Chinese community should consider? That's something we can accept without mentioning the name, without mentioning about penalizing the business people?
So look, very clearly there's a spectrum, a wide spectrum of how different states have handled this issue, right? 1075 is probably is very similar to the Virginia bill. Right? And the Virginia bill is on one end of the spectrum. The Virginia bill in 1075, one, does not touch any individuals. Does not touch individuals, it's only governments and agents of governments, right? And to be an agent of government, somebody would have to prove that, right? So, and it doesn't, and 1075 and the Virginia bill is all governments, right? Actually, no, I'm sorry, Virginia is actually 7 or 9 countries, not 4. So they include, the Virginia bill includes like Venezuela, Cuba, and some other countries that U.S. has problems with. But the most important part, that's not the important part, the most important part is that it does not touch any individuals, which is what the biggest issue with 147 was, right? It went after the individual immigrant and said, we don't care what your past is, we don't care what you say or do. If you're Chinese, you're a Chinese agent, right? And that's completely unfair. on the other end of the spectrum is where 147 started, and is dual citizens, green card holders, visa holders, and bans all property, right? That's the most extreme. That's Florida's law is very close to that. Florida's law that they passed is very close to the way 147 started. Maybe like a tiny bit less bad, but it's about the same place where it started. And that's the two ends of the spectrum. And the question is, if we have something that's very close to the 1075 spectrum on the end of the spectrum, should we just go ahead and do it, right? And we had this discussion all throughout this last few months of should we just, instead of lobbying our elected officials to say, should our message be just pass 1075? Or should our message be don't pass anything? And there was a debate that we had within our group for a long time. And we decided on don't pass anything for the time being. The reason was this. Like 1075 is okay, but more than likely 1075 cannot pass at all. The reason is 1075 covered all countries, right? And guess who owns 99% of the foreign-owned lands in Texas? Canada, Mexico, and Western Europe, all of our allies, right? They're not going to screw over our allies, including, don't forget, one of the big purchases that people are really, the right wing is really mad about, $3 billion petrochemical plant purchased by Saudi Arabia, right? And as soon as 147 went out into the news, the comments in social media was always, what about Saudi Arabia? What about Saudi Arabia? What about Saudi Arabia? Right? And so they can't pass 1075. Because in reality, if they do that, we will have lots and lots of problems. Okay? So more than likely, they would have to pass something where it limits it to China, Russia, right? And we said, look, if we can stop a bill that names our people, we should stop it, because there's a very good reason why. Because we've been dealing with 3 years of dramatically increasing anti-Asian hate, right? If we pass a bill that names the countries where our community is from, right? It's not just Chinese people that are in danger, it's all Asian people. Because you think people outside of this room knows the difference between Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese? Right? They just say yellow skin, slanty eyes, you're Chinese, right? Because of what happened in Odessa, right? The Burmese family. Anyone here, anyone who's Asian or knows Asian people, say like Burmese look nothing like Chinese, not even close. But nobody else outside of this room knows that, right? So the decision was to say, if we have the ability to stop the bill completely, we should stop the bill completely, because even if we pass a bill that does not harm us that much, but it still points a finger at our community, we should try to stop them from pointing a finger at our community. That's it. That was the decision.
Question for Jen?